Thinking about us.
Oh, did you say?
You're tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV.
Yeah.
Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Some Bob Dylan.
Thank you very much.
Yes, excellent. I know you love this song.
I was very happy to hear this song in the show tonight.
You were singing along a little bit. You couldn't help it.
Can't help myself.
Well, welcome back, Masters of Sex fans, to another Masters of Sex after show. I'm Will Link. With me, as always, Adrian Snow.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
And Quinn Scillian.
Hi, guys.
And this is episode 8, season 3, Surrogates. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, this obviously is surrogates for the sex surrogate program that they are starting, but a lot of people also within the episode using people as surrogates in a certain way in their lives.
A lot of replacement kind of situations.
Yeah, definitely with
Libby,
even Virginia with the kid from the army, kind of as her son, Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to get into. There's a lot of different storylines going on, but we might as well start with the surrogate storyline.
Mm-hmm. Which isn't the surrogacy that I was thinking of. Like, it wasn't like someone else carrying a child. What it is someone stepping in to help these guys with their sexual
dysfunction.
Yeah, dysfunction.
And one brave man who's stepping in as well.
Yeah, he's really doing it for the good of the work, isn't he?
This isn't a revenge plan against his wife at all.
No.
Well, it's funny, though. We had talked about briefly at the end of last week about the idea of Jane becoming a surrogate is like kind of a full-time position, and immediately we're thrown into that's what the case is. And they're looking for people, but I guess it isn't an awkward job because they can't pay. They need volunteers.
Yeah, I was wondering not to skip forward too much, but at the end when Bill hands Nora a couple bucks so she can pay her rent or whatever, I was like, I wonder if that's going to come back and get him into some trouble, because that could be like paying her for this job that he's not supposed to.
Not. There was some weird stuff. You guys left the room, but then I saw the preview.
Oh.
So I don't think something happens between them, but I don't think it's that. But yeah.
All right. Yeah, there was definitely something happening there. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Well. They excellent though new character Nora, played by Emily Kinney, Beth from The Walking Dead.
I missed her so much.
Yeah.
Her dying on The Walking Dead was a really big deal to me. So I'm happy to see her.
Happy you see her now. She's back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So much hope whenever I see her on TV, because she's a lot older than what people think.
Oh, really? Yes. Yay, girl.
I'm not aging out of my
No. We're 17. We are 17 and we are in high school.
That's right. That's what you guys are. I don't know what this makes me at this point. But. Well, what's interesting about the surrogate program, Virginia she's pulling like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off here. She's faking being sick to go off with Dan, and Bill's taking this opportunity to push forward the surrogate program because Virginia apparently is not really into this.
Yeah, she thinks it sounds a little dicey, which I get.
Yeah, and I think exactly though what you said about paying these women and stuff like that. There's clearly something.
Betty says it's going to start sounding like something else.
Well,
yeah.
I thought it is interesting that the main focus of the surrogates is male sexual dysfunction. And they've kind of been lightly toying with this idea of Virginia having a feminist perspective of kind of coming in and wanting, and it's just small things that she'll say or how she'll react. And I think that's going to kind of be played on in the surrogates, that the fact that it is a very male focused thing. What about the women who are suffering from sexual dysfunction, and how would you even go about handling a woman's sexual dysfunction?
And this is coming from Bill's kind of having this desire to help the underdog
guy. And also because he had the sexual dysfunction, he feels obligated.
So he feels a way to. At least this week it wasn't a gorilla he had to help though.
I know.
So the sexual dysfunction.
We had some fun comments in the YouTube section this week. I was really happy about that.
Yeah, a very divisive episode episode.
It surely was.
But so one of the people who comes in though is this girl Nora Everett, and she apparently grew up on the street that Bill lived on, and she's not one of the people that Betty kind of first hand picked, because she's at first was picking people who they already had experience with, had already come in and done this with other people, but Nora's like she's kind of hungry for the job. She's a real go-getter.
She's a Virginia 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she had like such a teacher's pet moment in like when she was like, "Oh, I thought you wanted us to answer the question or whatever," and I was just
I'm
like,
not judging that because I was totally that chick.
I was not.
definitely that girl.
I was like, "Girlfriend, put your hand down."
Squeaky wheel, you know. You gotta, and Bill's buying into it. Bill loves
she
it.
was saying exactly what Bill was like, music to Bill's ears.
She even, and there was that interesting moment where she told the story about how Bill's changed, and about the story of when he drove her home one time when she hurt her knee, and he didn't say a word to her, which is such the Bill thing.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think Bill's changed. I think she just grew up. Because
I think Bill has changed.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, over the course of, 12 years?
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Oh, yeah, and the
He must have.
influence of Virginia and just overall having children and, I know he doesn't interact with them a lot.
He still has a
but-
barrier when it comes to
he still has a long way to go, yeah.
yeah.
But he certainly has, softened to a certain extent, especially if you happen to be introduced to him in his work environment,
Oh, definitely.
versus his home
And this
environment.
is someone who obviously shows a serious interest in the subject.
Well, and it's somebody. He's one of those people. If you play to his ego a little bit, be it you want to talk about his sex research, or you want to talk about his complete collection of football cards.
He's
very.
He's an ego stroke.
He just needs to. He needs to feel like part of something.
Yeah.
He feels the need belong. And Nora, I don't necessarily think she's being manipulative when she
No,
tells
not
that
at all.
story. I think it's just an observation she's making.
I guess. I don't know.
Oh, you think
She doesn't
maybe?
rub me the wrong way. Is she rubbing you the wrong way?
A tiny little bit.
Well, I mean, I guess what it comes down to is this. Is she looking for a mentor and he's looking for a protege, or do you think she's looking for more than that from Bill?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't. There's just something about it that felt like I'm waiting for maybe a motive or something. I don't know. I'm waiting to see if there's something else that she wants.
Okay.
I don't know.
It might be,
We'll
but
see.
Well, I do wonder. I mean, since we're talking about her, and you said well, the moment when he gives her the money, I do feel like that could come back because.
Just because it was made to be they made such a point to say we can't pay you. We saw all the women get up and walk away who were there obviously just for the stipend. So I don't know. I think that because they just felt like some foreshadowing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't have been brought up this much. It's also, I mean, quite frankly, it's really not right that they can't get paid for this. I mean, it's a
it
far
stinks.
cry from prostitution, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I could see that coming back.
Well, how does that? I mean, I don't.
I don't think prostitution should really be illegal. But
No, honestly, no. That's
Do
a
what you
different
wanna do,
way.
though. Yeah.
I have no problem with that either.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of cases in England going on about that right now.
yeah,
They're
it's
really
not.
fighting it.
It's. I don't know if they're making it illegal. It's not illegal in England, is it? I
I
believe
don't
it,
know.
or
I
they're
saw
trying to
I
make
saw
it
some
illegal.
protests about this, about sex workers
'Cause
protesting
the
in England.
Belle de Jour at Showtime show. Oh God, Confessions. Secret
Secret Diary of a Call Girl. Yeah.
Girl, yeah.
is based on a true story of an English woman who paid for medical school by becoming a prostitute because it was at that time at least legal. So maybe they are trying to make it illegal. I mean,
I doubt it.
it's the oldest profession in the world.
You know, people
Do what you-
should be able to do what they want to do.
do what you want to do. Be safe.
Well, and these women should be able to do whatever they want, even in Bill's office. And
Yeah.
even if she's spending the night there, she's basically now living in the office
Yeah.
there.
I know, yeah. A surrogate home, perhaps.
Exactly. Look at that. It's surrogates all over
Surrogates
this thing.
everywhere.
But Virginia's not the only one who's questioning the surrogate program. Libby has objections when she hears that Nora from down the street, nice little Nora with the Episcopalian parents and everything, is in the study. And I thought this was a great scene between Bill and Libby. And it was another one of these, and the show is like, this is their bread and butter.
I thought this was a good Libby episode.
It was a good Libby episode overall.
Yeah.
But this was one of those scenes where people are saying everything without actually saying it to each other. And it's like, oh, if you had a real conversation. Because Bill says human beings can't survive without being touched.
Yeah.
And here it is his wife, who he never touched.
Hello.
I mean, when the series started, they like had the separate beds and everything. I mean, they never had.
Still in the separate beds.
Were they still in separate beds?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Well, this just speaks more to the point.
We never see them together anymore.
Well, yeah, we never see them in the bedroom anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, in his kids, he's so not affectionate towards his own kids, so he doesn't practice what he preaches here.
I mean, Bill doesn't really touch anyone outside of Virginia, and even that's kind of like on the outs.
We haven't seen that as much.
Yeah. Well,
So-
because she's being whisked away by Dan.
She's otherwise occupied.
It's just interesting to see how puritanical Libby can be in her mindset, and then how forward-thinking she can be in other aspects.
Yeah.
And I know we talk about that a lot, about just like how, you know,
like
they're
where
kind of like
we're at.
forward-moving people, but they're also still people of their world. But just her whole response to Nora wanting to be a part of the study when, well, no, I guess
She's like,
Libby
oh, but
never.
she
I
was
thought
such a
Libby
good
did have
girl.
interest.
Yeah.
It's like she's-
So it's even though Libby is like understanding to a lot of the work,
Yeah.
she's still, when it becomes
It's
somebody.
not ladylike.
Yeah, she still has a certain attitude. Like,
Does she-
well, girls I know
Yeah.
wouldn't have done that.
You know,
but
no big deal. Like, she has an apartment on the side with her best friend's husband that she's like screwing and smoking
yeah,
cigarettes.
well, you know, since we're talking about Libby, let's talk about her storyline this
Yeah.
episode, because you've been shipping them. And they got together, and we didn't even.
I know. It was
we
just like a get on the train because it's moving.
Yeah, and which is like we were talking about at this also, how this show this season has really cut to the chase fast with a lot
and we've
of
been
stuff.
talking a lot about what happened with Robert. What happened with Robert? We didn't,
Finally.
and we were never sure if we were going to come back to that at all. And I don't think I had any idea what kind of toll that had taken on Libby's psyche.
Well, I had an idea only from the first episode
Yes.
by how she reacted to Henry getting hit by the car.
Sure.
I assumed that Robert had died in some instance violently, just because of how she reacted to the car. I wasn't sure if, like, because I know that
She gave a speech about like the civil rights movement that like people are dying in this, so we just assumed
But
that's
then,
how.
she also saw that man get hit by a car in season 2, which is how she was introduced to Robert. So I wasn't sure if that was like what she was thinking about that made her think about Robert, and then he
And
was murdered.
Henry got hit by a car in that episode.
Yeah.
God, if you're around Libby, you're going to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
This is that Bill better watch out.
But I did get some sympathy for Libby again, just hearing her talk about that, and also hearing her say, "I've already given it all." Like, she's like,
I mean, I think
she's not going to give
Caitlin
anymore.
Fitzgerald knocked that out of the park this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, she was great. And, you know, in the past few weeks, we've been, I don't want to say criticizing her, but her character's been a little more
The Libby
going
nobody
off the
likes.
Libby, off the deep end
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And this kind of first gave it this. I mean, she loved Robert. Like, she genuinely loved him. I kind of wish we'd gotten to see a little bit more of
Yeah, of
that.
their love.
Just
Yeah.
to see Libby be happy, because I think we kind of crave that for her.
Because we saw that at the end of the
Sometimes.
last season, and then we're back to kind of unhappy Libby.
Yeah.
And now we know why. And Paul is, you know, and I wrote down in my notes, like when we first saw them together, and Paul's trying to be nice and make small talk, and he's like, oh, we should stay.
He's asking her, like, so have you always been called Libby or Elizabeth or whatever? He's trying to get to know her.
And Libby's just knocking him down. And I kept thinking, oh, yeah, this is she's trying to keep this fantasy life here, and just, you know, she's got Bill and she's got all this other stuff. But really, it's Robert, the person she's trying to use him as a surrogate for, not Bill,
Yeah.
not the lack of affection for Bill. Which also, to me, also means I don't think this Paul and Libby storyline can really go that much further.
She's obviously got some things she has to work through, but it doesn't mean that I could see her maybe working through it and then having Paul be there for her. So, I don't know.
I think Paul's relationship with Libby only serves as a catalyst to get her to leave Bill, you know? Because if Paul is there as a surrogate for Robert, and then if Paul and Libby, which it seems like they're going to eventually come to an end rather soon, there's going to be this kind of void there that can't be filled, and maybe that'll help her to realize like what's going on in her life and that she needs to move on.
I'm assuming when their relationship comes to an end, it's just going to be them ending it. I don't think they're going to get caught in any way.
No, I don't think they're going to get caught. I just think
so.
it's gonna kind of be an eye opener for Libby in terms of, okay, maybe it is time for me to end this sham marriage.
Somebody, and I wish I could remember their handle. I should have written it down. But someone tweeted at us today, like, when is Libby finally going to like leave him? And I do think it's going to happen this season.
It was kind of a difficult one.
Yeah, I can't remember that. But I apologize. I'll give you a shout out next week. But I think it's going to happen this season. I think this is all part of it. And Libby is someone who just needs to be on her own for a while.
Yeah.
She can't be, clearly Robert was a great love she has. Bill was never the love she really wanted him to be.
Yeah.
And she has to find herself.
Exactly.
And this relationship with Paul, which by the way is also benefiting Paul because of what's happened with his wife.
Yeah,
he also doesn't have someone to have physical contact with right now. He
Yeah.
also needs somebody to touch and touch him.
Exactly.
I've been saying, I feel like all season, Libby has to be alone. She needs to be alone.
Yeah.
She needs to find herself.
Yeah.
So hopefully this
I think when the Paul stuff started, you had said that too. Like, no, it's not going to work.
But Libby's still, the main thing with her is that she wants to keep the family unit together and everything. So when she does finally leave Bill, it's going to be like, I don't know, I'm taking the kids and leaving. Like, I can't see her like,
Well, as Adrian said, she's also kind of trapped by her times. Because still at that time, if you had a family, you weren't it was still not...
but just leaving, that sounds simple, but it's not.
I don't think she's going to leave anytime soon. I just think the seed has been planted and it's going to slowly grow until she finally is like, okay, I can do this.
Well,
and it might take the kids getting a little bit older before she's willing to do it.
I don't think when she leaves she's going to do a thing where I'm just leaving town and Bill's with... She's never going to leave her kids. But I do think by the end of the season she's going to leave Bill.
You think by the end of the
I
season?
think so. I feel like we're building to... And we
Something
can only...
big needs to happen with Libby for sure, because I feel like we're putting a lot of money in the bank with her. We haven't really gotten to pull out a lot of action there.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like they're just setting up a lot of dominoes. So you have the kind of feminist agenda being kind of instilled in Virginia and Betty, and you kind of get a little bit with Libby. So if we're in the mid-60s right now and they do another time jump by the end of the season and we're in the 70s, we're in full...
We're in feminist mode.
Women's lib, everything. So that might be the moment she goes, okay, I can do this, I can leave.
Before we move on from the surrogates, we should talk about Lester and Jane in this episode, because Lester comes in, and actually the surrogate stuff, there was a lot of good humor in those scenes too. Like when he was interviewing the people. First of all, there was the one woman who's like, oh yeah, I could have sex with someone as long as I'm in love with them.
That was
the answer to the question of, are you able to separate emotion from sex?
Yeah.
That is her answer.
Yeah.
Obviously not.
There was another woman, although this woman should have been disqualified just for not paying attention, who was like, if it pays more, which is like, they already told you it didn't pay.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's true.
But then Lester comes in, and I was actually kind of surprised Bill let him into the thing, because it was so clearly... I mean, maybe is it just... I mean, is that just a show playing fast and loose for comic effect, or is it Bill actually thinks we need a man involved in this?
I don't think Bill thinks at all we need a man, but I think if he wants to convince Virginia to get on board, it is helpful to have Lester there.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird at some point when they were in there and Lester said something like, "That's not you were saying last night," and I was like, that doesn't really feel like it's a very non-Lester thing for him to say, but whatever.
Well,
he's all sassy now.
I think Lester feels. I guess I bought that line only because I feel Lester feels he's been a little walked over again with the whole Jane thing. And look, I don't blame him. Like I said last week, I mean, I think Jane's intentions are actually, I think she has noble intentions, but I don't know if I'd be able to, the woman I'm with, be thrilled with her being a sex surrogate for somebody, It's
if he can do it, and if she can do it, he can do it. I mean,
So we'll see how it goes. Well, the ladies have Lester to look forward to now when they come to the office. So there you go.
Wait, would he be a surrogate for
work
women,
for
or would he be
me,
a surrogate for other men?
For women.
For women.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No.
And that time...
I don't know if maybe a man would feel comfortable if a guy was in the corner washing or something.
Maybe?
You never
I don't know.
Lester's up for anything. That's going to be in the office.
So we are going to get to see a little bit of help with the women in terms of,
Well, I think he's just put there to kind of,
Well,
to make
placate
a point.
any...
Look, clearly from last season, Barbara, who Lester was with, she had issues that, so
he knows
Lester has
he does
experience.
have experience, but I
true.
don't think Bill. I've never gotten the feeling that Bill has really ever been that concerned about women.
No.
Me neither.
No, yeah.
Barbara was pretty much
Professionally,
the
not.
only, besides like the capping and the infertility. I feel like Barbara was the only woman we saw with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there somebody else? Maybe.
No, and that was only because she just happened to be a secretary that worked in
that's
the
true.
hospital.
Yeah.
I think with Bill, he doesn't understand like how to separate a woman's sexuality from a man's. Even though
No,
Virginia's
you're right.
kind of been like, women can have multiple orgasms and they can do all of this with their bodies and da da da. He understands that as a scientist, but I don't think he views women as sexual beings without the presence of a man.
Oh no, I mean I definitely think that Bill still has a long way to go.
Yeah.
In terms
Yeah.
of he still comes off a little massage.
Yeah. But again,
Mucho massage.
it's also the times.
Yeah.
It's also the times. The times are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan,
Hey.
more Dylan.
Hey.
So, since we're talking about The Office, let's talk about
Betty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who I was
I like how you
so.
said that. Betty.
I'm so glad in the last 2 episodes she'd had more to do and stuff like this.
Yeah, and we got
And-
to see her. You tell him off.
Yeah, telling
you
him
tell
off.
him off, Betty.
Well, when the episode first starts, Helen is coming in with Austin. There's been this deal made, and this was. I love that Austin is back as a
We don't
character.
see flashbacks very often in this show.
I loved that cut.
Yeah.
I
That
thought it was
editing
really fun.
perfect.
I was really happy about that.
Yeah, it was they did it in a fun way where we
Yeah.
were getting the cross cut from him in the strip club, which he does own the strip club.
Yeah.
Good to
another
know.
great
Big
real estate.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, but my
Did
real
it-
estate developments are.
Did anyone catch if Adam Arkin directed this episode?
I didn't look.
I think
Oh, I
he
didn't
directed
catch-
the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did.
He's directed a lot of them. He's
Yeah.
great. Directs a lot of the Americans. I'm noticing too, since I'm watching that show. But
Wow, how
anyway,
about that?
look at that. But
He must be in a guild.
yeah, who knew? So anyway, Austin comes in with Helen as his wife,
Celeste.
Celeste, and I guess I'd heard Betty mention Helen's name in the office, so
Yeah.
I would have assumed these people would have met Helen at
I
some
thought
point.
7 years they have never met Helen. Crazy.
Yeah, that kind
I think because of the times that though Betty might have
But even to
told,
stop by with some lunch or something.
but no, though Betty might have told Bill and Virginia, it's still one of those things where it's kind of like taboo,
But I
for-
mean, is there that big of a taboo between knowing you're a lesbian and introducing you to your lesbian lover?
It's like if I can't speak for all gay people, but I'm just in terms of like a friend of mine when we were growing up, he said there's a difference between you thinking and you knowing. Like you thought I was gay, but you didn't really know I was gay until I was gay. So I feel like it would be kind of the same instance of like you know that this person is gay, but you haven't seen them with a partner. And during that time, how would a person respond to like, okay, I know that they, and know, people at the time like, oh, I know they have interest or going through a phase or whatever. And then when they see the person with their partner, then they
Then
probably
it
might be
becomes real.
Yeah, I
Then
get
it
that.
becomes
I get
real.
that. I'm just saying, just in general, like even having Helen like stop by just for like no
Just to hand off lunch
no
or something.
formal introduction
I don't
necessary.
think Helen cooks.
These
You
people-
think Helen cooks?
She'll pick up something and bring it out. She'll
forget
get some
lunch.
takeout.
Forget lunch. 7 years is a long time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a while. And by
But
the
I
way,
guess
these
they weren't
co-work-
together the whole
They
time.
were together the
sure,
whole time.
sure,
They weren't,
sure.
but they've been together enough now that they know. And I'm
Okay,
just
moving
saying.
on. Okay, so they didn't know who Helen
they're
was.
bad co-workers. They should know that.
No big deal.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't have a whole lot of potlucks.
They need to have a Christmas
fondue.
party. The Masters and Johnson Christmas party
all
where you
right.
bring
Well,
your.
maybe Virginia knew her, maybe Bill didn't.
Yes.
Well, anyway.
Anyway.
Either way, she's here now.
Yes.
And this is the plan. They're gonna, they've been having trouble conceiving. So, and it was so. Sarah Silverman, I thought, was great in this episode because it required a lot of, what she's best at, her comic town.
And talking about a vagina.
Exactly, the two things she does
She's so
the best.
good at it.
And she's laying it on really thick, especially with Betty. Like, I bet you she does the books here too,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
thought was a great little moment between
That was
them.
really, really fun. Also fun because we all know that Sarah Silverman and Michael Sheen are a couple. And it was nice to get to see them because they're in the show together. It's nice to finally get to see them be in the show
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, that's how they met.
And then he's examining her
Yeah.
there. And that was also terrific. It was both comic and, of course, a logical way that he would find out that,
I know. I felt like, ooh, interesting oversight, but I guess...
Yeah, about her hymen.
Honestly, just knowing what we know now, doesn't make much sense. Like, she made it 30-plus years without her hymen being broken by, like, a bicycle.
Yeah,
or
like, hymens are very temperamental things, aren't they?
Like, she's done nothing.
That surprised me, too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess this is a moment where I got enough of a laugh out of the reveal that I kind of forgive the logic of it.
It's fine. We'll let it go.
Well, you know what else was funny? As I'm watching this, I'm like, well, at what point is Bill going to find out about this? Because clearly he's going to find out. It's going to be a big problem. And I thought it would be something we might have to wait a few episodes for.
Because I remember, because last episode we were wondering, I was like, okay, are they going to do the capping, or are they actually going to, like, you know, get down to business? We didn't know what was going to happen. So I thought it was interesting that they were, like, right away being like, no, we're going to go about this in, like, a very scientific, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also
tools and things.
It's also interesting. Austin kind of is getting out of this idea that it could help him with his kids and stuff like that, which is
sad. Because you always kind of knew he was going to lose his kids.
Yeah,
that was a big thing. Him and his relationship between his wife and his children has kind of been like ongoing.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, we haven't seen his wife in God knows how long on this show. So
beginning of season 2,
probably.
Maybe.
And we also find out the whole diet pill stuff did not go. He almost lost his medical license.
She had to go play a senator on Scandal, so they couldn't.
Oh, that's what it was? Okay.
Yeah, better things to do.
But Bill finds out just about immediately. And then, like you said, there's this great scene between him and Betty, and one of the best scenes we've ever had, I think, between them.
Betty was like, "What kind of idiot do you think I am? Like, come on, dude."
And she calls him out on all his BS. And again, Bill being Bill does not have any response to any of this. He can't do anything about this because she's absolutely right, everything she said.
Yeah, Bill can dish it, but he can't take it.
No, he can't at all.
Not at all.
And now we see at the end, though, we said, are they going to do the camping? Are they going to get down to business? They decide they're going to get down to business.
Yeah, down to business.
Yeah.
And
that was a very intriguing sex scene.
It was a very...
Looked like fun, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good times.
Just staring into her.
I know. It was just kind of like, it was almost like when a parent is taking a kid to get a shot or something. Like, you can do it. It's fine.
It's okay.
No big deal.
It's going to hurt a little bit in insertion, and then you're not going to feel a thing.
Pretty much.
Now, do you think, though, it's going to work? Do you think she's going to get pregnant, or are they still... Because I feel like it can't work only because I feel like we need to get to a point in the relationship with her and Bill where Bill's finally willing to help them.
Yeah. Also, I mean, a lot of couples have to try for a really long time. You know, I mean, how long are both Austin and Helen willing to go at this? You know what I mean? Like, I think at a certain point.
And they also are older, and so it's
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
So I feel like this isn't going to work, and I feel like they're going to have to go back to Bill. And I'm assuming, and I guess I'm hoping that eventually, by the end of the season, Bill will maybe he's still against women raising a kid on their own or whatever, but maybe he's at least willing to help somebody who means a lot to him and means a lot to the office and his career.
It's done a lot for him.
Yeah,
like his study wouldn't exist without Betty.
And I mean, since she said, "Hey, I've been helping you out a long time. You know, maybe it's time to rub my shoulders a little bit."
Well, meanwhile in Las Vegas, Virginia has like we said, she's been calling in sick with a fake cough and
playing
everything.
Hooky.
Yeah, and immediately. And Bill, again, she said you got to make him think it's his idea, so he was fine with her. Give her through the weekend.
I know, she can play him like a fiddle.
Well, he also just wanted to be able to run that program.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like, I'll give you a little bit, Virginia, but he was also playing you.
I mean, the second I saw her lying in bed, I knew something. We all knew something.
I could tell she was in a hotel.
Yeah. She wasn't at home.
She was not at home.
Yeah, that's true.
With a B for Bellagio, like on her. Yeah.
Is that where they were, the Bellagio?
I just assumed because I think it was a B.
I don't know my Vegas hotels very well.
Oh, that was a set. Bellagio it's so updated they could never use the real one.
Yeah.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Well, she's there with Dan, and Dan's there basically. He wants to pump scents into different smells into casinos.
Pump scents.
Which I thought might have been
scents. Smell scents, not brain scents.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that might have been the beginning of them deciding to pump oxygen into casinos. Do you guys know about that? How they pump oxygen to kind of get you to like go into a lull or high, so you stay there longer.
Exactly. Well, he brings Virginia with him on this trip, and this is and it is unlike Virginia to just like get up and go and leave the kids
We've
and
had
leave.
so much this season of like, Virginia, you work so hard. You you do so much. You just need to take some time for yourself. I feel like that's been like this huge thing this season.
Hey, well, it has been a lot of that, and I think a lot of that also because bringing in Dan Logan, who clearly wants. He sets up this whole relaxing day.
He actually won me over this episode. I was like, okay, Dan, you can stay.
You weren't won over already?
Nope.
Okay. See, I
Because
actually.
I didn't get his intentions as a married man. Like, what's the deal with his wife?
Yeah, that's the thing.
What's the deal with him and Virginia?
He's-
what?
He still is a married man, which is still the
You
upsetting
wouldn't-
thing.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right? And it was just like, and how open he is with Virginia and like being public about going out with her and everything.
Well, even
I just want to know what that's all
I guess there
about.
wasn't any Snapchat back then.
she tells him he would make a great father, and he basically says, "Oh, that wasn't going to be
My decision.
My decision." So, I mean, whatever relationship he does have with his wife, it's clearly. I mean, maybe it's just like
I
an
think she's
arrangement at
sick.
this point. Oh, you think she's sick? Okay.
Because that would be that would just make more sense for how he's so invested in Virginia. That he's married to someone who is ill and has like either given him permission or it's like, this is gonna be weird, but like Ted Danson's wife was like suffered a stroke in the mid-70s and he took care of her for as long as he possibly could, but I think in that time they had like some type of agreement.
I mean, but that happens. I read a whole letter about someone with the whole Ashley Madison hack where they were basically saying a similar thing, like, look, I really sick, and so.
And that's just kind of what's going on with Paul. I mean, could anyone blame Paul for wanting to, maybe not Libby, but like having sex with another woman when his wife is comatose?
But
I just almost feel like if he were to tell, he could tell Virginia. I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why he wouldn't tell her, but just saying he could tell her.
But here's the thing. If his wife is sick, I actually say I like Dan Logan less, though, because at least Paul's, like, with someone in his hometown and still there taking care of his wife. Who's taking care of Dan's wife
well, it
then
depends.
at this point?
They have a lot of money. How
That's
long has
true.
she been sick? You
Yeah,
know,
maybe she's
has
in,
it
like,
been
hospice or
15,
something.
20 years? And so there's just a lot of stuff I still want to figure out about him, but I did like how he treated Virginia this episode. And he also treated her like an equal.
Yes.
And listened to her.
That was a very
So-
important moment for me when they were at the dinner.
Yeah.
And he immediately, because I'm watching his face throughout it, and I wasn't
Couldn't
sure.
read it,
I
yeah.
couldn't read it. And this is Josh Charles has been killing it in this part. He's been doing a great job. And I couldn't tell, like, is he bothered that she's chiming in? Like, is this his kind of feel?
Yeah.
Or is he happy with her? And then the second he says, she's my partner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at
Not
that-
even associate.
It
Straight
kind
to
of
partner.
felt very Bill and Virginia. This kind of back and forth, kind of helping each other out.
But I feel like and I mean, granted, we're seasons away from this, but I feel like he went a lot quicker to making her a partner in his
Took Bill
thing.
forever.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and then
Associate.
immediately,
Yeah.
the second he sees that how much of an asset Virginia is, not just as someone, as a companion, but an asset in business and in this program, immediately introduces a partner,
Yeah.
which is great. And it's a great moment. You could tell that even endeared her more to
Yeah.
him. Even though earlier in the day, Virginia, it's funny you say, like, it's the whole season of Virginia. Virginia just needs to relax.
Yeah.
Virginia will not relax.
won't. Yeah.
She doesn't want to.
No.
Her idea of a good time is walking through the casino
Yeah.
and seeing
like,
how everyone reacts.
Yeah.
And it was really great to see Dan have that reaction after we've seen that scene between Virginia and the trophy wife in the casino where she's
Yeah.
talking about, we have such great lives and you know, we can just sit around and travel with our husbands and, you know, of course we have to go to the dinners. It was like,
Yeah.
shut up, please. You're Virginia hates you.
Yeah.
But
Talking to the wrong lady.
Dan not treat her that way, to not treat her like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
you're just here to
Like-
great.
Like arm candy.
Yeah.
Like, Dan set her up with all that stuff because it was just that's a nice gesture no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But he knew she was gonna He knew this
Yeah.
wasn't gonna be for her, but he has to make the effort. And yeah, I love that. I love when she walks away from that woman at the slot machine, even though her machine's gonna hit soon, but she can't. Yeah, she can't be around the. And then I like how she's looking at everybody and observing. And later when she talks about like kind of the way people react to winning and comparing it to sex, and she kind of lays out. And I guess that's why I wasn't sure how Dan was feeling about it, because I thought is he going to think that's going to scare this guy off, because you never know. But no, he ate it up. Also, and she talks about.
He's a casino owner. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
you figure they
he's probably
pretty
not the
much
most straight and narrow guy.
That's true.
Wasn't it all started by gangsters? Las Vegas
exactly.
started by gangsters.
Yeah, Bugsy Siegel and all them. So there you go. So great guys, all good guys.
All good guys. Good things.
But she and she talks about like the smell of like even like the smell of losing and things like that. How all this stuff, like we all sense this, and then the meeting goes so well. They're having this great night out on the town. To "The Look of Love" is the song they're playing for that one. And
they're
then
in the throes of pash.
Exactly, and they kind of fall back into the hotel room. They're all excited, and all of a sudden there's psychotic bellhop.
Who I don't know who this kid is.
They
but
bumped into him earlier.
Yeah, which was a weird moment that really stood out.
But it was also probably him tagging them, being like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they're out of their room, and we'll go.
This kid really killed it. I should look up who this actor was, but when he was talking about having taken his mother's jewelry and this whole little monologue moment he had, it got to me.
He became addicted to drugs, right? Because I couldn't understand everything he was saying in his monologue, but I assumed that he had become addicted to cocaine or heroin, like in Vietnam.
Yeah, and it sounded like there was different escapes there, and it only lasted for a little while.
Yeah.
And this guy comes in, and he's going to, he's going to rob them. He's going to stab them. And Dan goes right to action.
I was so afraid he was going to get stabbed.
Yeah, same here.
I honestly found the whole thing, if I'm to be honest, a little jarring. And not necessarily in a great way.
And not really necessary.
Yeah, I felt like they just needed to kind of shoehorn in this kind of army thing where he's kind of the surrogate for Henry.
And to kind of bond.
Yeah, because I think that Virginia got to look at Dan as kind of like a little bit of a hero. Or whatever.
And then also to see him be reasonable about her request.
Yeah.
And to not say that that's ridiculous, you're just going to call the police, but to be like, no, okay, I see where you're coming from.
And look,
I'll help this kid.
Calling the police is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But Virginia didn't want to do it, and Dan was willing to hear her out on that. Again, treating her as an equal, not being like some guy who's just like, no, I know what to do, and this guy's got to go away. Because we find out this guy, was in the army, and immediately Virginia sees her son in this guy, and then he's telling her all these things about how your son is not going to come back the same person, about how my mother kicked me out, and they really take sympathy. And Dan really goes above and beyond at that point to try to help him.
Pays for his rehab.
Yeah, pays for the rehab.
Yeah, crazy.
And and look, it's all for he's doing this for Virginia.
Yeah.
And doing this to kind of put her at ease, knowing that, there'll be people when your son comes home that will help. It's not going to be this way for everybody. And, it's the best they could do. And it is a moment that brings them closer together in many ways.
Do you think we're going to see Henry by the time the season's over?
I've been so afraid
in a box.
since that's why I've been so afraid that he's going
not funny.
to.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just
no, but I mean, that's when I think we said that in episode 1.
Yeah,
and I don't know anymore if that's going to be the case, because I feel like they're getting enough Vietnam in the background that we're dealing with it in some way. I actually thought that
we've kind of we've been given enough of the dose of it that we don't necessarily.
Well, they might bring him back for to deal with the repercussions of PTSD.
Yeah.
So,
because honestly, he isn't going to be, even if he doesn't come back as messed up as this kid was. Mm-hmm. He is going to be different.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've never been to war, but I imagine that's a very life-altering experience.
Or
My
if you go the
brother
other
came
way,
back different.
and he comes back different, and he's more put together, and he's ready to take care of, I don't know, the family. I don't know.
He might come back as an entirely different actor.
like Bobby on Mad Men. Just
right?
Yeah, every season, a new
revolving door.
Bobby.
It's a different dude.
So, okay. So, it's really... I thought that was great, and what we see at the end of this, though, is Dan does not... He claims they didn't take the offer. The casino didn't go for it. Yeah. But then we find out, Virginia finds out, no, they did go for it, but he refused to relocate to Vegas. And they're like...
We're like, because he doesn't want to leave Virginia.
Yeah,
Like
well,
maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's something else.
well, they said because they specifically said I don't
St.
know what his
Louis.
ties are to St. Louis.
Yeah, and he's from New York, so
Yeah.
it's Virginia.
Oh wait,
yeah.
I get it.
The
Okay.
casino owner was like, he's like, I don't know what it is about St. Louis that he
don't
would turn
know.
down this. Why would you want to live in St. Louis? And there's only one reason,
It's
Virginia.
just so sad because you know how their story ends, just like you know how Libby's story ends because
Yeah.
of the eventual marriage of Masters and Johnson. But she's
Yeah.
like, oh, I like Dan now.
Yeah, I like that. And even there at the end, when Bill comes to bring the soup, and Dan's there with the, he's there in the kitchen, and there's
Yeah,
this moment
he's like
where she's
in the home now.
yeah, and she's like torn between the two men now in her lives, like Dan's on the inside. Dan's where Bill used to be like.
In the
Hiding
kitchen.
in the kitchen somewhere,
Yeah.
and now it's Dan. And Bill is really, and we talked about this. The one
I feel like Bill's always going to come back to Virginia's doorstep. That's what it seems like.
he is. I mean, that's always
Where
the
he wants
case.
to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and but he doesn't realize it enough. He doesn't know how much. Still, I think he needs it because he's still always pushing her away,
Yeah.
thinking he can always get her back. But
You can't do that to people.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Personal thought there.
Just kind of
Can't
watching.
do
We're
that.
just kind of watching Dan kind of slowly move in on Bill's
Yeah.
position.
And like I started liking Dan a couple of episodes ago,
Yeah.
and now I think we're all on.
We're all on board. Team
But I
Dan.
think one of the reasons I think we are all on board is because we know it's like a doomed romance. I mean,
Right?
we know. I mean, it's something.
It's just
So
one more thing to
It's
kind of push
over.
out of the way until we get to we can hear wedding bells.
one more thing I want to bring up before we get to predictions. Young Dr. Jonathan working
Yes,
with
Barton.
Barton. They're both big classical music
I was like,
fans.
what if he really
moment.
is talking about classical music this whole time, and like Barton makes a move on him? He's like, no, I really meant Vivaldi.
Just
Like,
classical music.
Yeah, so and then Barton's got a new love interest, I
Yeah.
guess.
Potentially,
Definitely
yeah.
some
that'd be great.
flirting happening.
And I'm glad we're seeing a lot because season 2 we barely saw any Barton, and I like that even if it's just a little moment like this,
Yeah.
we have this character. One, because I do think again because of the times, the issue of a closeted gay man, especially an older man, is very interesting.
So interesting, especially that
Let's
he is
get to
older.
the 70s and send them to either San Francisco or New York.
Yeah.
Get there. Get to the 70s.
I mean, I don't know what this. I mean, this was really a storyline. No other characters were around for any of these scenes, so I'm not sure necessarily what we're setting up here. Is it just a romance, or is it
A figment of his imagination.
Bart? Not that.
That would
Not
suck.
that. But
No, that actor who plays what is his name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I've seen him around.
Yeah,
I
I've
can't remember his
recognized
name.
him.
So I
Yeah.
think he will be returning.
He'll be back. Yeah, he
he's
wouldn't
gonna
just be like a day
recurring.
player. He'll be around.
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how his story and if Barton's story, and I hope it does, connects more with everybody else in the office at some point.
Yeah, I would love to see him more in the action.
Interacting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like as much as I'm happy to see Beau Bridges around. He's not as connected to everyone else.
That might just be a technical thing if he's shooting something else, and maybe they just bring him in when they can, and they're like,
well,
It's like how it is with Joan Cusack in Shameless. She, they love her so much in that character that like she just has these weird offset stories.
whenever
she's available.
so they can, when you can get Joan Cusack, you use her when
and
you
they
get Beau
usually
Bridges.
shoot her
Yeah.
in Chicago because I think she lives in.
Yeah,
I know
she's from Chicago.
but I don't remember
All
if
those
she lives there
Cusacks.
sometimes. Yeah, right.
All right, so I think that basically covers it for the episode. So why don't we get some predictions?
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Spooky predictions. Adrian, you weren't here last week, so let's start with you.
Well, I think Libby and Paul will probably come to an end next episode.
Okay.
I think that Virginia and Bill are definitely going to have a standoff next week about the surrogates when she gets back to the office. And I think that'll end up pulling Dan into it just because Bill has some feelings about that. And then we'll probably see more of a Jane? Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, we didn't talk about how Dan was like, wait, that was last episode. Never mind. I saw both episodes today.
Oh, with Tessa, you were thinking?
Tessa. Sorry, not Jane. Tessa. We'll probably see more of Tessa next week
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I've been loving Tessa's character, and I've
Loving to hate Tessa's character.
Yeah, I kind of was disappointed she wasn't in this episode.
I was bummed we missed her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I'm just really interested to see where this whole Nora thing goes, and really interested to see just this whole surrogacy thing. I think is really fascinating, and I want Helen to get pregnant.
Yeah, I would like to see that get pregnant too, but I think it's going to still. I think
At
Bill's
some
still
point,
going to
I
have
want
to get a
Helen to have
hand in there.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm looking forward to seeing more kind of where that goes. That wasn't very good. I'm so bad at predictions.
Well, let me tell you, this is a tricky show for predictions. Like, when you're on like some like crazy sci-fi show or something, you can come up with anything.
It's
but
left
this
on a
one,
cliffhanger.
this one is this is always a tough show. Because look, we also like. I'm pretty sure at some point Dan is going to take this Vegas thing, and that's going to be at the end of there.
Yeah.
I think Virginia's going to push for him to do that, and that's how their
That's the right
relationship's
thing
going
to
to
do.
end.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they'll be in the next episode, but it's definitely before the end of the season.
She's definitely going to be like, hey, so about that whole Vegas thing, you lied.
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna needle enough for where he knows she lied.
Yeah.
I think last week we were talking a little bit about the Jane Lester marriage, about how's this marriage going to survive this? But I think now that Lester's involved, I actually think this is going to I think it's going to end up making their relationship stronger.
Like I was saying, we weren't seeing them really together, and now that we are seeing them together more, it's like, oh, okay, things aren't as bad in this marriage as I thought.
Because even though he's like, they're annoyed with each other, but there's passion there. There's still passion there.
It's friendly banter back and forth. There's feelings there for sure.
Yeah, and I'm also very curious where this Nora storyline goes. And by the way, who I hope we see again soon and becomes a bigger antagonist to all these people is those religious nuts.
Well, yeah,
who we haven't seen them in a little while.
Literally, it's been. I mean, we mentioned them a couple times. We haven't seen them.
Yeah,
at all.
well, the last time we saw them, they were outside the office protesting, like they had to call the police. But I hope we see, because I do think that's a fascinating. I think that's a fascinating antagonist again with the times. All right, so Adrian, where can people find
you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. That's MSADRINSNOW.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Instagram at Quinstagram, and you can search for me on Vine at the Quinn B.
And you can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. You can also listen to my pop culture comedy podcast, Will Sean Podcast. It's great. Give it a listen on iTunes. You'll enjoy it. Until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.